The lesson.
Oh, yeah.
On the topic of, walking the tightrope and really rolling the dice on content, I can imagine you're writing material and you've decided, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And you might be a bit like, don't know how it's going to go. And that's where the thrill aspect comes from it. And you talk about your 70-30 split. Have you ever had a situation where it's like a 95-5 split against?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All the time. It still happens because comedy, no matter how long I've been doing it for, and as I get better and better, at end of the day, I can write something that I think is funny, but I don't know until I do it in front of people. And as the longer I do it, the better I get at guessing. Because until you do it in front of an audience, it's still a guess because you don't know for sure. And I get better and better at making more and more educated guesses. The bombing happens less. But every now and then, you get up and you start talking about something and people are just like, nah, not today, man. Not laughing at this. But that's all part of the process, like you do jokes and even if they start off good, you keep doing them because you keep adding tags or you change it or you move, even just something simple as keeping the joke the same, but you change a descriptive word to something a bit more obscure can completely change the energy of a joke. So yeah, I've every comedian will have horror stories of tanking and doing bad, but it's part of the process, if you it's almost part of the fun with new material of like, oh, I think this is good, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then, so do you have any specific memories in your career so far where you're like, that was like one of my biggest tankings, and do you remember what the joke was?
Yeah, I got PTSD over this one. This was horrendous. This taught me never listen to someone who's not a comedian because they're not a comedian. I remember I was hosting this show at the Comics Lounge. It was called The Naughty Show, and obviously it was at 11 p.m. at night. It was it was during the comedy festival, so they run 3 regular shows, 6 p.m. It was like 7, 8, 9 p.m. and then it ended at 10. And then at 11 p.m. they had The Naughty Show, and that went to midnight. And The Naughty Show was just the darkest comedians doing their darkest stuff. And so, of course, they got me to host the event. They're like, he's the right guy. And they got me to host the event, so I was on about 6 times throughout the night, bringing on other acts and setting the tone, I suppose, because you want to come out with just some horrible stuff just so people know this is what it is. If you're not around it, leave. The comedy club owner suggested the perfect way to start the tone, which was not. But I believed him because I was a bit younger at the time. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. He said, oh, I think it would be really funny to set the tone by you coming out on stage in a wheelchair and then making everyone think that you're a paraplegic in a wheelchair, and you wheel yourself to the microphone and then you stand up and grab the microphone and go, welcome to the stage. And I remember thinking, I don't know, man, but he owns the club. That must be a good idea. And I did it, and I wheeled the thing and I pushed it even further. Instead of standing up and getting the microphone, I tipped the wheelchair over, hit the ground, and the whole audience just went, oh no, poor guy, what do we do? This is so bad. Oh no, the poor disabled guy. And then I stood up and I was like, welcome to the show. Silence. Dead silence. 500 people, not a whisper. And then I was hosting the show. So I was on about 6 times throughout the night, and all the other comedians just trashed me for it. In a funny way, and then I had to come back out, and the whole crowd was like, "Yay!" Oh, there's the wheelchair guy again. And then I'd get off, they'd be like, "Yeah, it's the wheelchair guy again." But I hosted that show 4 nights in a row, and the last 3 went great. And I think the wheelchair was the difference. That's the worst I've ever bombed on, and I've since learned, I'm the comedian. Even if you own the club, it's still, I know what I'm doing. You can run the bar. I don't tell you how to sell drinks.
And then, so like, that's a classic example of when you say something or do something and the whole crowd goes quiet.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the other side of it, I guess, is heckling. which I guess what is just when people sort of be like boo and
Yeah,
say
just
some
interrupting
things.
the show, I guess.
Now, can you recall having some heckling, and how do you, if yes, how do you deal or cope with the heckling when it's happening?
Well, honestly, I love heckling. I think it's great. Like, I love, there's two types of heckling. So I like positive joining in heckling. So like they'll say something bad about you in a funny way, or they'll reference your joke, or they'll yell something out that you can bounce off of. And I really love that because it's like people joining in. I mean, it's part of comedy. Every time I do an interview, people ask about heckling, and some comedians get really angry, like, oh, you should never heckle. I hate it. It's interrupting. But I feel like it comes with the territory. It's part of the job. You know what I mean? It's so I don't mind a bit of positive heckling. People yell one thing out, I'll say something back and wreck them or destroy them. Everyone laughs. It makes the show fun. And it brings like a unique energy as well. It means that, if I have a couple of hecklers that I can bounce off through the show, that means every city I do, they're seeing a different show. I've got my jokes that are in there, my hour that's the same every show pretty much. But I love crowd work. I love heckling, bouncing off people who are there, because end of the day, most people are there. They bought a ticket. They like you, unless they've been dragged along by their girlfriends or their boyfriends. But there is negative heckling, and that's bad. I think that's the difference between positive and negative heckling, I would say, is the constant stream of it. If some guy yells something out, you say something back, wreck them, everyone laughs. He yells out again, you do it again. He yells out again, you do it again. The laughs start getting less, and it just becomes this interrupting presence of a person who just doesn't get it. That's when it can become quite bad. And if someone yells out something 7 times, it's not funny anymore. You can't really go back at someone who's like a brick wall who just keeps yelling stuff out. We had a really bad heckler at the taping of my comedy special, and he didn't heckle me, but he heckled my opening act to the point where the entire audience was booing him and yelling at him and telling him to shut up. And it went on for about 10 minutes, and it completely ruined the opening act set, which was a shame because, part of the reason why I had them there was so that they could get footage filmed, because, I got this opportunity and I thought I'd help out other younger comedians as well. But the heckler just ruined it. And that was someone who just didn't get it. It was funny the first 3 times, but then it kept going. And I think that looking back on it, I should have kicked them out because it was affecting other people in the crowd. Because, generally if someone heckles and it messes me up, if they've yelled something up and it messes up me, that's on me because I don't have the skills to respond. But if it starts to affect the audience, then that's on them. And I feel like that's when you should kind of step in and kick someone out. But since then, I've never had to kick someone out yet. So hopefully it'll never happen, but who knows?
The lesson. 7. Oh, yeah.